Hello, beloveds. It's Sophia Mona Lisa of the Rose Wheel Mystery School and the Golden Ray Center. And today is Monday, August 28th. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this recording gets complete. I've already been having a lot of glitchiness with Zoom. So I'm just holding the intention that I'll be able to get through this whole recording for you. This recording is called The Leo Divine Royalty Goddess Rises as Morning Star, and it's so much more. You're going to see that on the next slide. The key words for this video journal and everything that I'm going to speak to you about are transcendence and self-eminence, and you're going to understand why these are the key words as I go through and show you what's happening. Now, there is so much that I want to share with you, and my head is feeling like this big. It's a lot of details, and I'm hoping and I'm intending that I can get it all out in a way that you'll be able to follow and that you will be able to perceive the tremendous impact of what I'm seeing here. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and just jump into it for you. All right, so in this video journal, I'm not just going to speak to the Venus rising as morning star event. I'm actually going to speak to 4 events. And those events are the day before Venus roses morning star is that Mars 7th feet of the Mars synodic cycle. Now, I know I said in previous videos that that was on the same day as Venus rising. That's because I took a gander at the ephemeris and it looked like it fell on the same day. And it's really not until I cast the chart that I know the exact alignment. So it does turn out that the Mars 7th feet is on August 18th. And actually that's a bit significant, and you'll see why in a moment. So then we do have that Venus retrograde rising as morning star, as that Leo divine royalty goddess on August 19th. This was the day that we had the closing circle, the last day of our immersive breath retreat known as the Conscious Equal Partnership with the Leo Royalty Goddess event. And then just a few days later, on August 22nd, we had 2 events occur. One was in the morning, Venus retrograde squared off to Jupiter. And then later that evening, Mars came to its exact opposition to Neptune retrograde. So we're going to talk about these 4 events, and those keywords that I gave you, transcendence and self-eminence, are related to these 4 key events and something more. This is the piece that's going to blow your mind. So I hope you're sitting down. When I looked at these charts, what I discovered is that the chart for each one of these cosmic events included these rare astrological aspects that I spoke to when I did the new moon in Leo video journal, the kites and the yod. And so remember that the new moon in Leo was on August 16th. These 4 events that are coming after August 16th take us up to August 22nd. That's an entire week of the kite and the yod being in the sky working us. Now, remember what I said about the kite. The effect the effect of this rare kite aspect has to do with transcendence, transcending above your evolutionary and vibrational set point, and being able to bring on the mastery of spiritual gifts that the average Joe cannot even comprehend. And I kind of liken that to, you know, Yeshua turning water into wine, multiplying the loaves of bread and fishes, walking on the water, as miracles, gifts that he had as a Christed being that the people just could not comprehend. So this transcendence piece that the kite is taking us up into is even greater and more significant than we even recognized at that new moon in Leo on August 16th, because of all of these now subsequent, so including 5 cosmic aspects over the course of the week where the kite and yod are in effect. And you're going to see those in the charts. I'm going to show those to you. Now, the yod, remember what I've said about the yod. The apex of the yod is considered to be the finger of God and is often referenced as this beautiful image that Michelangelo painted in the Sistine Chapel, because they call that the creation image. And of course, I call it the finger of the goddess. The whole point being that whatever those base energies are that are thrusting up and fueling this apex point, this point is going to manifest. It's going to be created. You could say it's a manifestation of divine will, because nothing can stop it. It's happening. So again, we'll keep going back to the kite, the yod, how they relate to these 4 aspects. And I'm hoping that you can see the exquisite beauty in what was unfolding within us, around us, above us during that week from August 16th through August 22nd. And, you know, remembering that up until the 19th, there, you know, we as a tribe, the Galactic New Earth tribe, were really, you know, I've been saying we were in the cauldron being alchemized, and that's intense. What I can see now as I look at this stuff is it wasn't just a cauldron, it was an inferno. And so hopefully by the time I get through these videos, you'll be able to recognize that as well. So getting back to those keywords, transcendence and self-eminence. If you go to a thesaurus, what you discover about the word transcendence is that it relates to sovereignty. It relates to preeminence. And if you go back to this video journal that I did in June of this year, that's only available in its entirety on Patreon as exclusive content, I did this video in June when Pluto was making its ingress from Aquarius back into Capricorn. And I talk about how I was inspired to stop talking about Pluto in terms of reclaiming our sovereignty and to instead start talking about, because the buzzword sovereignty has been overused, start talking about claiming our self-eminence, that self-eminence that speaks to our true divine light. And so you're going to see how this becomes relevant. This keyword of self-eminence becomes relevant through these aspects. And I encourage you to go back to this June 2023 journal and rewatch what I have to say around self-eminence in this particular video journal. Okay, so we're going to start with the first of the 4 cosmic events, the one that happened on August 18th, the day before Venus rose as morning star. We know in terms of the Mars synodic cycle that this is its 7th feet and that it was happening at 25 degrees of Virgo. We know that the Gemini Mars synodic cycle has its own archetype, and I did a video journal around all of that, which hopefully you saw. I don't want to spend a lot of time here rehashing that information because I've just got so much to go through, and I would encourage you to go back and watch that if you're interested in terms of the Gemini Mars archetype and how the sacred masculine is being evolved right now. So what we see here, and oops, sorry, getting ahead of myself. It's my fine motor skills trying to operate my mouse, as you well know by now. What we see here is that what signals the Mars feet in the sky for the Mars synodic cycle is when Mars and Moon come together. And we see them here together right here. And we round that up to 25 degrees of Virgo. And we see that they are very closely conjunct Epona, the Celtic horse goddess, and Mercury. So this is very significant in terms of the Mars feet. Also being able to come into the balance out of that predator-prey consciousness field into the balance of the lion heart wisdom, where you can hold that space of assertiveness without being aggressive. And this is particularly huge for the sacred masculine because Mars, as the Lord of Aries, has often been associated with assertiveness, particularly in the shadow. Well, pardon me, let me say that differently. It's been associated with assertiveness in terms of the shadow because assertiveness has had that negative spin put on it by patriarchy. Mars also in the shadow as the Lord of Aries has been associated with aggressiveness. And so we have to be able to discern, kind of do like a quantum surgical procedure to discern the frequencies of assertiveness as being separate from the frequency of aggression or aggressiveness, which the patriarchy tried to merge together and did a really good, selling job on for a really long time. And so, of course, Mars in his synodic cycle is about the sacred masculine and how he is being evolved at this point to bring back that wisdom of how the sacred masculine can stand in the lion heart wisdom and communicate, right? Mercury is the cosmic messenger. How is this event communicating that to not only your inner masculine, but also to the collective consciousness about the masculine energy? So this is a huge feat that in and of itself is spectacular. And then we discover And I put this little arrow out here, and I'll talk to that in a minute. But let me just finish this train of thought. Then we discover that the Mars feet, Moon and Mars conjunct at 25 degrees, is standing across the sky from Neptune retrograde 27 Pisces, and is a part of that kite again, like it was before this Mars Moon conjunction became exact at the Leo new moon. Because at the Leo new moon, if you go back and you look at the kite there, what you see is that here, and I'm going to just call this the tail of the kite, Mars was there, and Mars was there with Isis. Okay. The reason why I have this here, and remember, Isis being the cosmic Sophia. And remember what I said about other astrologers maybe possibly missing this kite if they're not working with this particular luminary body and understanding how the cosmic Sophia divine wisdom is supporting the sacred masculine and being able to have this expression of itself as it what is the word I want to say? Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's like a tape that's been playing, right? Patriarchy as the perverted masculine is a tape that's been playing. Kind of like how, you see in movies and actors, characters will say, oh, the voice in my head is my mother's voice, that kind of a thing. So the way that Sophia in her divine wisdom is facilitating the sacred masculine here is that she's helping to delete the tape, right? Even Mercury is really even speaking to how the tape, the message of the tape, right? It's being shut down, it's being neutralized, it's being deleted. It's like a program that's been running in the background. You could even say, like, remember when, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, when PCs first came out on to the public. People didn't have problems running their PCs, right? Maybe they needed software upgrades because better versions of the software came out, but we didn't have problems with viruses, right? That was a manufactured part of the dark forces, even already preparing the minds to receive viruses, right? If you think about a computer virus that affects the software and shuts down the computer, that's no different than what they've done with COVID. It's just a highly evolved, a highly engineered version of the same play, right? We're going to give them these COVID shots for this virus, and really through the mRNA and CRISPR nanotechnology, we're going to fool with the software of this hardware and shut it down. So Sophia, which you can't see here because of my circle, I got a little, I got a little overexcited and I didn't make the circle large enough to include her here, but she's here. 29 degrees of Virgo. What have I said about 29 degrees of any sign? Mastery point. The mastery of being able to work with the divine wisdom of ceremonies around cycles to be in service to the sacred feminine, and in this way helping to shut down, neutralize, delete the program of patriarchy so that this new voice of the sacred masculine in terms of the Lionheart wisdom can come forth. So getting back to what I was saying about the new moon in Leo on the 16th that had this kite. In the tail of that kite, what was here was Mars and Isis. From the 16th to the 18th, right? So we're talking in a matter of 2 days, the moon came into conjunction with Mars to become a part of the tail of the kite. And Epona and Mercury are also a part of the tail of the kite. So this is a huge feat that's being accomplished by the sacred masculine for the sacred feminine. Why is it for the sacred feminine? Because, as I mentioned before, it's in Virgo. It's across from Neptune in Pisces, this Virgo Pisces axis that's being engaged as the spine of the kite. Okay, so before I talk more about that piece, let me speak to this here where I'm pointing out that the tail of the kite is in the 7th house. Now, again, I look at this and all kinds of bing, 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 bing stuff starts flooding my mind about what's happening here. And I've got to somehow sift out what I can share with you to get through all 4 of these events within this video journal. So this is what I've decided to do. These parts of the kite, Uranus, Neptune, and Pisces, I'm going to speak to those towards the end of the video because we know with a kite, not only are we experiencing the effect of this transcendence, right? If you think of a spiral going up levels on the spiral, transcending where we were, but of course, also at the other part of that is that spiritual mastery and having these gifts, these spiritual gifts that other people just simply can't comprehend. These aspects of the kite speak to those gifts. And I'm going to talk about that in generalities towards the end. For right now, I'm going to focus on the tail of the kite because the tail has the right that helps it to maneuver, right? Okay. So I put here the tail is in the 7th house. Why is this significant? And you're going to see this on each of the charts that the kite kind of shifts and shifts and shifts, kind of like a kaleidoscope. I love that. I just received that piece. Because the houses are significant. The houses that the points of the kites are in are huge in terms of discerning what the effect, the full-on effect of this kite is. Now, I can't go into all of that right now, as you well know and understand. However, I will tell you individually, you may recognize the importance of being aware of that information for you in terms of your own transcendence. And so, you know, you can always book a reading with me to get that information. But the big thing that we need to see here with this tail in the 7th house is that this has a way of transcending how we are in relationship. And it goes back to what Isis and Mercury and Epona are doing in terms of shutting down, neutralizing, and deleting the tape of patriarchy. It is, we are transcending the way in which we are in relationship with the sacred masculine, no longer allowing patriarchy to infiltrate through the tapes that have been shut down through this feat. And that's a significant feat in terms of being in relationship with the sacred feminine, excuse me, the sacred masculine. I hope at least that piece is really impactful to you. And the fact that this is happening the day before or in terms of hours, in terms of a linear timeline, that this is unfolding before the Leo goddess can rise is significant, because remember what the sacred masculine does. It serves and supports the sacred feminine, and never more so than when the sacred masculine is working this Virgo Pisces axis, which is that path of the helpmate. I talked about that in one of the previous videos, which brings me to this next slide. In that video, I talked about, what is the helpmate? And I explained how the helpmate is as equally dedicated to their sacred work as you are to yours, and or supports you in your sacred work. And so we can see how the sacred masculine is actually doing that for the Leo goddess right before she gets ready to rise up out of the underworld. I mean, this is beautiful. And so, I wanted to bring that piece back into your awareness regarding the feet, regarding the Virgo Pisces axis, and now bring you back to that 29 degrees Virgo, where the cosmic Sophia as Isis is located. I've been receiving this download, and this piece that I'm seeing here just like clenched it for me. And so, just as in the shamanic astrology school, they talk about these pathways, right? Virgo Pisces, in terms of certain relationship pathways. What I'm seeing is that even the pathways are beginning to evolve. And the way that this particular Virgo Pisces pathway is evolving is it's evolving as the pathway as of the Sophia Christ consciousness. This is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because the Virgo as the earth element, being in sacred service to the sacred feminine, that's the Sophia consciousness piece. Even in the reconnection meditation, we start with the light of Sophia coming from the planetary earth grid up through the heart of Gaia. Okay. And then Pisces is on the other side of the axis, is the Christ consciousness. And remember, Neptune is there. That's on the other side of this Mars feet. And so, I've always said that Neptune, as the Lord of Pisces, is that pipeline to the source field, to the unity consciousness, to all of the gifts of that, right? Divine grace and mercy and compassion and divine love. These are ways that people identify with the Christ consciousness through those keywords. And so it's clear, especially with Isis as the cosmic Sophia being at that 29-degree mastery point of Virgo, that Virgo Pisces pathway is being evolved as well through this kite, right? The transcendence, the spiritual transcendence, from just being the path of the helpmate to being the path of the Sophia Christ consciousness. So I hope that you can see that in the same way that I'm seeing it. I hope that I'm receiving the right words for you to be able to feel into that frequency that I can feel. Okay, so this again is the chart for that Mars 7th feet. Here it is, the Mars 7th feet. Remember, Isis is right there, but the line is blocking her. There's the kite. And now here's the yod. And what's super exciting about this yod, and I'm debating, should I tell you now or should I tell you with the Leo rises as morning star? I'm going to tell you with the Leo rises as morning star. But what I want you to see here is that just like with the yod, the kite at the Leo new moon on the 16th, 2 days before, this yod also involves at the base point these 2 points of the kite. So you can see that the aspect in the sky related to the Mars feet, this kite, is intricately woven into this yod. And I'll explain more about this apex point, like I said, when I get to the next event. The Leo rises as morning star. But this is the next piece that I thought, okay, I can kind of speak to this a little bit. And that has to do with where the apexes are located, because as I said, the house is the playground, right? It tells you, okay, so what I'm hearing is like, if you're making ice cream, this is funny. If you're making ice cream, depending on the ingredients that you put in it, it's going to give you the flavor of ice cream. So are you making vanilla ice cream, or are you making chocolate ice cream, or are you making strawberry ice cream or pistachio ice cream? This is what the effect of the house does. It lets you know what flavor of ice cream you're making. Okay. And here with this yod, it's in the 6th house. It's in the day-to-day reality, right? That 6th house with the day-to-day reality. You've heard me say this before. It's every step you take. It's every breath you breathe. And I am not, infringing on Sting's, copyrights. It's every thought you think. It's every, it's everything, every step, every breath, every thought. This is the day-to-day reality that is getting impacted by this apex. So remember, the kites and the yods over the course of a week, and as like a kaleidoscope, they shift and shift and shift into different houses to bring in different frequencies and different effects. Okay. I will speak again, as I said, to this apex in the next video. So I hope you're kind of getting a sense of the magnificence of what I'm seeing here. And of course, the base points of the yod are, let me find the right word, are consistently the Pluto retrograde in Capricorn and the Neptune retrograde in Pisces. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to speak more to that towards the end of the video, just because I got so much to share with you. All right. Now, okay. You will see here, just like at the apex of the yod for the new moon in Leo, that Lilith is involved in the apex of the yod. And I talked about talked about Lilith in that new moon in Leo video, in terms of Lilith being kind of a placeholder representing Thecla, who is very obviously this Leo goddess, right? Embodiment of the Leo goddess. And I just kind of pared this down a little bit more from that journal to remind you of Megan Watterson, who is the creator of this Divine Feminine Oracle, what she said. There's divine will within each of us that is aligned with the soul's purpose. This is crucial because we know that Christ is divine will, just like Sophia is divine wisdom. And so I said earlier when I talk to the feet about how we're seeing through divine will, how our relationship with the sacred masculine is becoming transcendent by deleting those old programming messages, those viruses, those tapes, right? In the old days, they called them tapes, right? The reel-to-reel tapes. Now they call them, like computer viruses. We don't even want to get into the flipping nano shit that they're putting in people's bodies. Okay. That is another expression of that. And then she says, Thecla reminds us that we do not need permission to be who we are, right? This is how Lilith is like in the chart being the placeholder as a sovereignty goddess to represent Thecla here, because remember, let me back it up here to bring it home again. Lilith is in Leo, right? The Leo goddess. So you see how all of this kind of ties together. So I talk more about her in that new moon in Leo video journal, but just showing you how over the course of the week, she is still very, very present, and reminding you that on Friday, which was the day that this feat happened, August 18th is when the Mars 7th feat took place. It was exact. That was the day that Carol drew this card from the Divine Oracle to give us messages. I mean, you cannot make this stuff. I mean, the level of synchronicity that unfolded that I can only see now in hindsight is just continues to knock me over. This is just incredible. So Thecla continues to be a part of not only the yod that is intricately woven into that Mars 7th feet, you will see as being a part of the apex of that yod in these other cosmic events. She's still very front and center, very present. Okay, so this is the piece that is mind-blowing to me. Remember in the new moon in Leo video, my last slide, I had called it the awakening / awakened divine heart. From the inception of that new moon in Leo, remember the new moon plants new seeds of consciousness. The full moon, which is coming up in 2 days, today's August 28th, and in 2 days is the full moon, illuminates the seeds of consciousness that were planted. So over the course of this entire week, August 16th through August 22nd, all of these events are conspiring, so to speak, through divine will to help transcend us into this awakened divine heart. How do we know this? Because again, Leo is the compassionate heart space, and I gave you all those video journals on that quantum timeline that I fell into, where I could see that this 3D heart field was being calibrated to a 5D plus heart field. That is the awakened divine heart that we got calibrated to. And now all of this stuff from the new moon in Leo on August 16th through August 22nd is supporting us in being able to have this day-to-day, right? Day-to-day connection with that awakened divine heart space, which includes the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine, having this whole new relationship with the sacred masculine. I mean, this, you could just go down all kinds of rabbit holes with this, but I've got to try to rein it in. Okay, so moving forward. Actually, I just want you to see this slide again because I think it's so beautiful. This is Mary Magdalene. She has the rose at the awakened divine heart placement. And of course, the rose as an ancient symbol is this sacred geometry that Venus makes in the sky over 8 years with her dance with the sun. I mean, come on, there's just layers and layers that just continue to knock me over, as I've said. Okay, so here we are, the next day, August 19th. Venus still retrograde, rising as that morning star, signaling that this is a whole new dance with the sun, right? A whole new synodic cycle, signaling this first phase of that whole new synodic cycle is beginning. And so in Leo, she's telling us that this is the Leo goddess rising. We know now, of course, that the evolved archetype for the Leo goddess is this divine royalty goddess. And she's rising at 17 degrees of Leo. So let's look at that. All right. Let me get this placement. So here it is. This is what you see in the sky that signals that Venus is rising as morning star. So this is something very specific and precise that you need to be aware of. What's happening here that signals this? And I've spoken to it before, but of course it's time to speak to it again. Remember what I said. Because Venus is so close to the sun, that when her movement becomes within 10 degrees of the sun, you can no longer see her in the sky. And so when she comes within 10 degrees of the sun on one side, she disappears, which means that she is gone into the underworld. And when she comes onto 10 degrees of the sun on the other side of the sun, she reappears. And this is where she is either rising as morning star or evening star. And we know that she's rising as morning star. And so you can see, if you look closely, 16 degrees, 39 minutes is 10 degrees away from 26 minutes, 26 degrees, 39 minutes. This placement, 10-degree orb from Venus and the sun, this is what signals that Venus has risen as morning star. Now, what's really super huge about this is a couple of things. Once again, we see Lilith as the placeholder for Thecla there, okay? And if you will remember, Sophia gave me this information about the lost zodiac, right? The 22 ancient star signs. And this event, if you watched my What's Up Pussycat video journal, this event, Venus rising as morning star, is the event that brings online the 13th strand of DNA. And this star here, Alphard, in the ancient sign of the Sea Serpent, known as the Hydra, is the light codes, so to speak, that is facilitating this 13th strand of DNA coming online. Now, that's way outside the scope of this video journal. That's all a part of the Galactic New Earth Project. And I will be talking to that with the Galactic New Earth Tribe next month when we do our ceremony on September 10th. So if this at all interests you in September, you might want to consider upgrading your membership to this tier 2 so that you can watch the replays. because we're going to be bringing in all of the wisdom about these ancient star signs and the frequencies of the star that is influencing these cosmic events. And you can see that Alphard at 27 and a half degrees is very closely aligned to the sun here, 26 degrees, 39 minutes. Okay. So this is why, because the Mars feet was the day before, and I didn't want to speak to the apex point, you will have noticed, or you can go back and look and pause, that Alphard as the star is a part of that apex of the yod because of where it's located in the sky relative to these luminary bodies. Now, so that's one big thing. The other big thing, which I'm going to speak to a little bit later, is that we can see that Venus at 16 degrees, 39 minutes is already in square to Jupiter. And I know it's hard to see Jupiter here because of all the circles and everything, but Jupiter's at 15 degrees. I can't remember how many minutes. And so within like a 1 or 2 degrees, already a close orb of being in square to Jupiter. And then we know that on August 22nd, that square between the two of them becomes exact. And so I'm going to speak to that at that point. Okay. But these are the super two big impulses that are coming through and really kind of setting the stage, so to speak, for the entire Leo goddess journey, right? 13th degree of Strand comes online, and the whole Leo goddess journey is about bringing on the 13th strand through the 33rd strand, which has the Christ consciousness frequency. All right. And then this Venus square Jupiter piece that I'll mention when we get to that point. So that's really, really huge. I want you to see that once again, this kite is still in the sky. So through each of these events, the kite is spiraling higher and higher and higher. And in that tail, which is now in the 8th house, right? The day before, it was in the 6th house, the day today. Now it's in the 8th house. Why is this significant? Because the 8th house is the house of empowerment. And so we're getting a huge influx of empowerment from Sophia, who is still at 29 degrees of Virgo, and the sacred masculine. Notice how in one day the moon has gone from almost 25 degrees of Virgo to over here, I think 4 degrees of Libra. So because the moon is very fast moving, and we still have Mercury in Epona right there. Okay, this is a huge empowerment for not only our transcendence, but also these gifts that I'm going to speak more to later. And the ruler of the 8th house is Pluto. So here we've got like a whole new theme in terms of our self-eminence, in terms of our transcendence, this whole new death and rebirth that is totally aligned with Leo rising as morning star. Because where is she rising from? She's rising from the underworld. She's rising from that intentional death experience to be rebirthed as the Leo goddess. So there's, again, layers upon layers that I'm seeing here that are beyond the scope of what I could do here. But again, for you personally, you can see how the points are in different houses with this kite. And so what's being activated within you is a whole new flavor that the kite is bringing to you, right? A whole new flavor of ice cream that the kite is bringing to you. So that may interest you. You might want to know what that is all about. Okay. So just like this event has the kite, of course, the yod is still there. And what's at the apex? It's the Venus rising as morning star event. That's why I was like, should I tell him now or should I wait? This is it. This at the apex is the Venus rising as morning star event. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This blows me away. And of course, in terms of the closer orb, Venus is a little bit outside of that because of the 10 degrees. But here you've got Lilith, that is the placeholder for Thekla, the sun, right? The heart of our solar system in Leo, which represents the heart, the awakened divine heart, fueling this divine will manifestation of us being transcended to where we are now heart-centered beings, not 3D heart, divine heart-centered, awakened divine heart-centered beings. And all of the star power from the sun and all of the star power from Alphard, that's like, I don't even know how many light years away, coming in to our little itsy bitsy neck of the galaxy, not even however many, infinite numbers of galaxies and universes and all of that stuff. I mean, we're like a pinhead, and all of this star power. Sorry. Coming in for us. It's coming in for us. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. This is why I keep getting on my soapbox and saying, shut the frickin' phones off, shut the frickin' television off. Don't let the distractions of that deep state bullshit keep you from knowing the truth of who you are and standing in the truth of who you are. This is why we are more powerful than them. This is why they have done such a disempowerment program, because they know this. I mean, this is exquisite. This is just absolutely flippin' exquisite. And of course, as I mentioned on the previous slides about the Mars 7th feet, here at the base is this Pluto and Neptune. And so what's happening, I know I get ahead of myself, but okay, it's just wanting to come in right now. So what's happening here? I know I spoke to this in the new moon in Leo journal, but sometimes new pieces that you're ready to hear will come through. And so I just have to allow it to come through. This is the transcendence, right? The Neptune on this Virgo Pisces axis of the Sophia Christ consciousness, Neptune retrograde, pulling your awareness in to your own inner Christo Sophia. Pluto retrograde, pulling you in to your own true divine light, your own self-eminence. And so this is what's coming together to fuel this moment, this il destino of divine will, saying this Christ race is coming back to the earth. And so our inner self-eminence and our inner Christos Sophia are working overtime to fuel this awakening. in this higher field, this 5D plus field of our awakened divine heart, because this is where you've got to be. You've got to be centered in the awakened divine heart to stand in your power, right? Apex, 8th house, tail of the kite here, 8th house. You've got to be in your awakened divine heart to be able to stand in your power, to let the greatness of who you are come through. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself as I'm getting ready to say this, but you know, what can I do? 2 days from now, we are having that new moon in Pisces. And it's going to be located right here at about almost 7.5 degrees. And look at who it's going to be conjuncting. Your inner Magdalene, your inner divine Sophia, and Saturnia. Saturnia is retrograding, so Saturnia is going to be more like 3.5 degrees in 2 days from now. And what does Saturnia do? It births from way out there in the galaxy, way out there in the Milky Way. It's birthing onto this planet. So this is what's happening. And this is what that full moon, what does it do? It illuminates the consciousness field. And I am getting ahead of myself by sharing this because I am going to do a video journal on the full moon. But hey, here's the spoiler alert. What this full moon next to the Magdalene and Saturnia, both retrograde, right? All of this work is being birthed from within us. Pisces is the unity source field. This is where we are all one. And so, if they haven't thought about this before, you need to be very aware of it now. You, the part of you that has descended into this sacred vessel on this planet, it's just a small part of who you are as a multidimensional, eternal being. There is a part of you that is already fully Christed being, fully awakened living master. And you came onto the planet and said, I will bring that part of myself here onto the planet, not only to facilitate Gaia's ascension, and also to facilitate humanity's ascension. You are already a fully Christed being. What did I say? Humanity came to this planet as a Christ race. And so this full moon in Pisces is illuminating that this whole Venus synodic cycle, this whole Leo goddess journey is about us working through our awakened divine heart with our Christed self to bring those frequencies into this sacred vessel that has to be upgraded and expanded to hold those frequencies. Otherwise, it'll blow them out. Right? Just like a circuit breaker gets blown out. That's what's happening here. And it's just, I mean, I knew this, and you probably knew this, and now we're seeing the evidence of it. It's written in the skies. We're seeing what's unfolding through us. This is why you have to keep yourself from being distracted, because you're here for something different. If you're watching this, you are here for something different. You've got to stay focused. Okay. All right. The next piece. That was August 19th. 3 days later, August 22nd. Within that week, right? August 16th to 22nd, where through the Leo new moon, the Mars 7th feet, Venus rising as morning star, and now these two events being a part of the kite and the yod. So Venus comes into that exact square to Jupiter that I mentioned in the previous slide. She was already in square when she rose as morning star, but now she comes into the exact square 3 days later. And that happens in the morning. And then later on that night, Mars, who was standing across the sky from Neptune at the Mars 7th feet on the 18th, comes into the exact opposition. It's what I'm seeing is like a chiropractic, adjustment. Like you go in and the spine is kind of like, and then you get the chiropractic adjustment and boom, now the spine is in line. That's what's happening to the kite. The kite is getting the chiropractic adjustment. So now it's got the full straight spine, right? That goes up and down the kite, that supports the kite. So these are the two events that happen on August 22nd. So let's just take a moment and look at those. Okay, here we go. So the 15-degree mark. Here you see Venus at 15 degrees, 18 minutes in her exact square. She's still retrograde to Jupiter. You can barely see it here, 15 degrees, 18 minutes. It's exact, okay? This happens at 7:53 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 22nd. Now, what else is happening with this square, which is important to mention, is that Lilith and Alphard are also squaring Uranus at 23. So we've got a lot of, remember what the 90-degree Aries is all, 90 degrees aspect is all about. Breakthroughs in consciousness. We've got lots of star power between Jupiter, Uranus, Venus retrograde, Lilith is Thecla, and Alphard as that star in the Sea Serpent. Excuse me, I got to take a sip. A lot of star power coming in for breakthroughs in consciousness. Okay, what is that breakthrough all about? Remember, Leo, the consciousness field of our awakened divine heart. It's at a higher vibrational set point, 5D or above, right? Because some of us have done the conscious engagement with the first 12 strands of DNA. And so we're already vibrating at 12D at minimum. Okay. Some of you may be too. I'm not intending to judge or impugn everybody. So this is why I'm saying 5D or above. Okay. Taurus, embodiment. Jupiter, expansion. Here we go. The body is having to be expanded in terms of inner space and in terms of its ability to embody the higher frequencies that are coming in through this awakened divine heart. And Uranus is like, boom, liberation. And so you may start experiencing, having more and more experiences of what they call moksha, right? Where you're feeling yourself shift into that place of unity consciousness. And the more that we bring these strands of DNA online, the more you're going to be having those experiences. And you may start having experiences through your dream world, which Aquarius, that Uranus rules, is a part of, in terms of your parallel lives and having, recognition of the work that you're doing, not only as your Christed self that you're here as a foot soldier for, but also these other parallel lives. So all kinds of stuff may start to become a part of not only your inner reality and also your external reality because of these squares between Venus retrograde, Lilith holding the place for Thecla, and Alphard, this star from the Sea Serpent sign, to Jupiter and Uranus. Anything Jupiter engages is highly benefic. There is always what we call a boon, a spiritual gift associated with it. Jupiter is even known as the cosmic guru. So, be prepared for anything, right? Now, here's the kite again. Notice, of course, that Uranus, as a part of this square here, is one of the points of the kite that is actually engaging this Venus square Jupiter, Lilith Alphard square Uranus event that I've put on here. And the tail of the kite is in the first house. This is important for a couple of reasons, particularly because now the luminary bodies that are in the first house are Epona, who has now become retrograde. 3 days ago, she was still going direct. Now she's gone retrograde. So what is she doing? She's bringing your awareness from the external reality into your inner reality. And she's there with Mercury and Mars. And you can't see her here, but Isis has now also crossed over the threshold from the 29 degrees of Virgo into Libra. So Epona's gone retrograde. The cosmic Sophia is no longer in the kite tail. But what's the significance about the first house? The first house is all about the self, who you know yourself to be. So as this transcendent evolution is happening through these cosmic events over the course of the week, who you know yourself to be as an individual that is heart-centered in your awakened divine heart at this higher frequency, working in these higher vibrational set points, is also being evolved. So that's really important to be aware of. Why is it important to be aware of? Because across from the kite, right, this is where later on in the day, I probably should wait to the next slide. Okay. Later in the day, right, this is 7:53 a.m. Oh, let me show you the yod first before we go into the Mars opposite Neptune. Here's the yod. Here's the yod. And remember what's in this yod? We do have the sun, Alphard, and Lilith as Thecla, but Alphard and Lilith were a part of that square to Uranus. So even the apex is having this breakthrough in consciousness. Why? Because the apex is in the 12th house. What is the 12th house? And I've always said it's what shackles you, right? What makes you feel imprisoned? How can you magically liberate yourself from the handcuffs? So in this way, I would say it's anything that's energetically blocking you. also, I would say, like, any discordant frequencies, any remnant frequencies of shadow, because we have come out of that underworld, right, on the 19th, and this is only the 22nd. So any pieces of shadow, any discordant frequencies that are blocking you from being able to stand solid as a being that is heart-centered in your divine awakened heart are being blasted out, right? What does Uranus do? It's like a lightning bolt, boom. It's getting smoked, right? Is that the word? I don't know the word. Did you ever see the movie Michael with John Travolta and Gene Stapleton? And the bank gets smoted, boom. Sorry. That's what's happening here. Okay. All right. So the next event on this day, which is happening then at 4:21 in the afternoon. This is the chiropractic adjustment where Mars and Neptune come into that perfect alignment, that perfect opposition, 27 degrees, 9 minutes of Virgo and Pisces, right? That backbone of the kite, which is the path of the Sophia Christ consciousness. Is this starting to come together for you? Because I really hope so. So in the tail now, as I said, we've got Mars, Mercury, and Epona. Epona has gone retrograde since the previous event 3 days before, and Isis has moved on to Libra. See, she's right here at 0 degrees of Libra. Okay, so these are where the kite points are, and the tail is in the 9th house. What's super juicy about this, happening on the same day that Venus comes into a direct square with Jupiter. What did I say about Jupiter? He's the cosmic guru. Okay, the 9th house where the tail is, this is the house that is Jupiter's realm. He's the Lord of the 9th house. This is all about the cosmic guru. What are you being taught through here? What level of spiritual let me rephrase that. What spiritual message, right? Because of Mercury here, the cosmic messenger, are you receiving from your sacred inner masculine, from Christ consciousness? Because you no longer need external gurus. You are your own guru, right? Christ above, Christ within. What is the Christ consciousness sharing with you by having this tail in the 9th house, which is Jupiter's house, right? Even though Jupiter is over here. Where did he go? Sorry. Over here. You know, you're going to get a huge spiritual message, a huge spiritual teaching. So, you know, think back on whether anything came through for you regarding that. But that's what the tail in the 9th house is all about. Okay, and where's the yod here? There it is. And where's the apex? And the 8th house again, right? So we know that whatever this spiritual teaching is coming through your awakened divine heart from the Christ consciousness, it's going to empower you. It's going to empower, I would say, even your ability to stand square in the frequency of that awakened divine heart. And this is why shutting out the distractions is so significant. And if you, throughout the day, start to feel yourself become overwhelmed, because, you know, I'm human too, I get it. We do get overwhelmed by all the bullshit out there. Go back to the first part of the reconnection guided meditation. Wherever you are, you can put your hand on your heart. You can drop your awareness into your awakened divine heart, right? This field now is a 5D plus field. You can do the slow inhale and the slower exhale to bring the mind and the heart into coherence. You can do that for yourself. And doing that reconnection meditation every day is another way that you can empower yourself, because when you see your true divine light, the flame of your inner Christos Sophia, embracing you as a pillar of light that is anchored in the galactic stellar grid and the planetary earth grid, that stuff, they can't get anything through it, right? A nuclear bomb cannot get through that. That's how powerful we are. And you have to choose to consciously engage it. You have to have this new relationship with who you really are. As you are bringing in the pieces, and we're kind of like the Trojan horses of the day. We are fully Christed beings, living masters that have come here in these vessels that look human. That's the Trojan horse pit. And we're bringing all these frequencies in. And as we bring them in and we ground them, anchor them on this planet, everybody on this planet benefits. Gaia herself benefits. So remember, you're the Christ Trojan horse. Okay, now, those are the charts for all 4 of those cosmic events. And the kites and the odds, you had to see it. You had to see it to believe it. I mean, me telling you one thing, but you seeing it here and seeing how, like the kaleidoscope, it shifts and engages all these different houses. You have to see it. Okay, so let's talk about, right? Remember, the effect of the kite is that you are being transcended such that you're becoming a spiritual master with gifts far beyond what most people can comprehend. And I told you that the top of the kite, the Uranus in Taurus, the Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and the Neptune retrograde in Capricorn, those are the spiritual gifts that you're getting access to. Now, I'm just going to give you like a brief synopsis of what those gifts are related to. Where they're showing up in the houses as the kaleidoscope is moving is a whole other layer related to those spiritual gifts that, again, it's outside the scope of what I can do here. So reminding you, at any time you can book a reading with me if you want to get into that nitty-gritty, because it's really exciting and it's very empowering and it's super validating to receive that information, but no pressure. All right, the Uranus and Taurus spiritual gift has to do with the ability to embody the higher frequencies of these spiritual gifts. I mean, think about the frequency that Yeshua was holding that enabled him to perform the miracles of multiplying the loaves of bread and fishes and turning the water into wine. Okay. So you've got to be able to embody the frequencies that these spiritual gifts have. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. This is the ability to be a master of these spiritual gifts. Remember, Capricorn, ruled by Saturnia, has to do with mastery. Pluto, particularly at this last degree or two of Capricorn, has to do with mastery, right? So this is part of this whole transcendent thing, is giving you this ability to not only have access to these spiritual gifts, right, but the ability to master them. Because, you know, you give a laptop to a 2-year-old, you know, these days, maybe they know how to bring up YouTube and find their favorite, you know, Hello Kitty, whatever. But this is the analogy that I'm making. You hand us a quantum computer that's got all of these gifts built into it. Well, we gotta master how to use that quantum computer. And of course we are the quantum computer. And of course, Uranus and Taurus is telling us that we are the quantum computer. Okay. Neptune retrograde in Pisces. The ability to demonstrate, right? Because remember, the effect of the kite aspect is the spiritual master that has gifts far beyond what most people can comprehend. The ability to demonstrate these spiritual gifts that we are the masters of, because we've embodied the frequencies of these gifts, and they are the spiritual gifts of Christ consciousness. That's why I keep saying, right? It's what the people saw as the miracles. So that piece is super huge in terms of that kite that was in the sky from August 16th through August 22nd. Now, was it there August 15th and was it there August 23rd? I can't tell you, but, you know, I'm good with a week. I go down through so many rabbit holes as I'm looking at this stuff, and stuff is coming into my awareness. I have to say, okay, this is what I'm looking at. Okay. So yeah, a week with that kite in the sky through those 5 cosmic events, transcending us into our own self-immanence, right? Our own true divine light. That light of our inner Christos Sophia. Okay, now, obviously this is the kite. So here I made for you, for each one of the cosmic events, right? August 16th was the new moon in Leo. August 18th was the Mars 7th feet. August 19th was Leo rising as morning star. August 22nd was Leo square Jupiter exact, and Mars opposite Neptune exact. Okay. So here for the kite, in terms of the placement of the tail, because that's the one piece that I thought I could give to you. So on the 16th, it was actually crossing over. The tail was crossing over the 2nd and 3rd houses. 2nd house has to do with your resources, tangible and intangible resources. The 3rd house has to do with communication, specifically your ability to communicate with your tribe. I'm just going to leave it at that, right? Your community, so to speak. On the 18th, the tail was in the 7th house, and I explained to you that had to do with the house of relationships. The 19th, it was in the 8th house. That has to do with empowerment. And on the 22nd, the first event, the Leo square Jupiter, it was in the 1st house. And the second event, Mars opposite Neptune, it was in the 9th house. So 1st house has to do with the self, who you know yourself to be, and the 9th house has to do with that guru. Okay. So that's kind of like a recap through all of the events in terms of what was going on with the kite, and specifically the tail of the kite. Okay, so I've made another slide like this. that has to do with the apex of the yod. So August 16th, that's the new moon in Leo, the apex of the yod in the first house. Okay. Remember, I said it was planting the seeds of consciousness about who you are evolving into, right? Through that yod. Boom, it's time that this is who you are, and it's now showing up on the planet. August 18th was that Mars 7th feet. The apex was in the 6th house. I talked about that being the daily life, right? You can always think of Sting. Every step you take, every breath you breathe, every thought you think. August 19th was when Venus rose as the morning star, Leo goddess, and the yod was in, apex of the yod was in the 8th house of empowerment. And then on August 22nd, with Venus squaring Jupiter, the apex was in the 12th house, and with the Mars opposite Neptune, the apex was in the 8th house. So again, right, smoting out those blocks. Can you just see? To empower you. Okay, so where am I in my slides? Aha, we've come to the end of this journey. And now you can see why I've been so excited to share this with you. Now you can see why it's felt like birthing this huge piece of wisdom for you. And I thank you for staying with me. I am not going to do a promo for this on the heels of the What's Up Pussycat. I think people have plenty to look at there. And I'm not sure that they would really get this if they're not engaged with this work. But you know, I mean, I will say it again, how much I appreciate your commitment to this work, to your own ascension path. If I can be of assistance, you know, please let me know. And tomorrow I'm going to get out the video on the 3 Mars trines. Those are going to be very relevant now after everything we've seen today. And that full moon is happening August 30th, 2 days from today, which is Wednesday. It's happening here in the East Coast at 9:30 something. So for the United States, the full moon is on the 30th. For people over in Europe, it's happening on the 31st. Just going to put that out there. And I guess the final thing I would say is for any of my patrons who are also in Florida, like I am, you know, we've been under a state of emergency for the past 2 days. We've got that storm coming in that they're going to name Hurricane Idalia. This is what I would say. Do the reconnection meditation. See your pillar of your inner Sophia Christ light and expand it to include, at the very least, the entire state of Florida, because that's how we can neutralize the effects of what they're intending to do in damage from this weaponized attack. So I invite you to do, all of you to do that for us, if you will, for the patrons in Florida. Just always stay safe, because we know that with the winds can spin off tornadoes, and with the tornadoes and the winds, power lines can come down. With the flooding, power lines and water is diabolical. So to me, hopefully the power stays on for most people. And if people do lose power, hopefully it'll come up quickly. And if we do our work by holding our pillar of Christos Sophia light around this state, hopefully we can neutralize, you know, what their diabolical intentions are. So Floridians, stay safe because of the whole power issue. and the tornado issue, I hope it's going to be a non-event because of our work. And you must be vigilant. You must be prepared, right? That was our Girl Scout motto. Always be prepared. So stay vigilant. I love you. And I will get another video out hopefully tomorrow. I'll at least get the slides done tomorrow. All right. Until the next time. Bye-bye.